Hello, my mic was just off. Welcome back to The Open Debate. My name's Elder, and I'll be your host this evening, this afternoon, this morning, whenever you choose to be tuning in to this live event. We welcome you. Welcome to the community. This is a place where individuals get together for hard topics and hard discussions. What are we talking about today? Well, parents have been told not to terrify children over climate change as rising numbers treated for eco-anxiety. What is eco-anxiety? This is a question that I posed to the community here today. Is this something that exists? Is it real? Is it not? Today we're going to be covering what eco-anxiety is, the examples of eco-anxiety that have been exhibited in the public, and how to treat your eco-anxiety. Before we get started, if you'd like to help support the channel, you can always donate through Streamlabs, have a message pop up on screen. I also have a PayPal, and I can't even think of what it's called. But links are all in the description below if you want to help support. Sharing, liking, and just telling your friends about what's going on here in the community is the best way to help the channel grow and help build the community up. So, join us in the Discord if you like hard discussions. But let's get into it, guys. So, there's been a growing discussion around fear when it comes to climate change and climate denial, and how individuals are reacting to the way governments are treating these policies, I guess you could say. We've seen a lot of discussion from AOC and individuals like that, a lot of fear-mongering, you could say. And one big figure in the media these days is, as everyone knows, a 16-year-old girl named Greta Thunberg? I've been saying Thunberg. And something that I'd like to pull up quick, I'm not going to play the whole thing because obviously it's quite annoying to be berated by a 16-year-old girl, but not only for those facts alone, because it doesn't matter where the information is coming from, it doesn't matter the age of the person. If they're giving you good information, you should listen to what they're saying and you should be aware of it. But as she starts to talk here, I would like to point out what she says and the reaction of the crowd and what is actually happening in society. So before we get into this full discussion on eco-anxiety, we're going to play the short clip that I'm sure most individuals have seen, but if not, you can see it here instead of having to go look it up for yourself.
Greta, your first climate strike was a lonely event a little over a year ago, and in the intervening time you have sparked the interest of millions, literally, of children around the globe demanding action for climate change. What's your message to world leaders today?
My message is that we'll be watching you. This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering, people are dying, entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
And how dare you seems to be the quote they're going with. And so, as you can see, she's passionately speaking, but she says at the beginning, you're looking to the youth. You're looking to the youth to help fix your problems. I should be in school right now. It's a clear sign, and it's funny to see that individuals don't see the hypocrisy that they have in themselves by using a child as their spokesman, as the individual that they're turning to, as their leader. This is not the face of somebody who is thinking clearly, that is rationally pointing out their position. This is the face of anger, emotion. Is coming from a very emotional place, and what she says is passionate, but there's not much substance behind it. And I don't blame her. Once again, this is an individual that has been seeing and blasted with information coming from people that she holds respect for, that are fear-mongering, that make people afraid. And this is the result of what we see. This is the result of what happens when you constantly have headlines and articles that are telling you the world is about to end, that when you have political figures that are going on rampages telling everybody that the world is almost over. And so let's just get into this first article here, coming out of the telegraph.co.uk. Parents have been told not to terrify children over climate change as rising numbers treated for eco-anxiety, right? Rising numbers of children are being treated for eco-anxiety, experts have said, as they warn parents against terrifying their youngest with talks of climate catastrophe. Wow, I just had the weirdest slip up. A group of psychologists working at the University of Bath say it is receiving a growing volume of inquiries from teachers, doctors, and therapists unable to cope. The Climate Psychology Alliance, CPA, told the Daily Telegraph some children complaining of eco-anxiety have been given psychiatric drugs. The body is campaigning for anxiety specifically caused by fear for the future of the planet to be recognized as a psychological phenomenon. However, they do not want it classed as a mental illness because, unlike standard anxiety, the cause of the worry is rational. A lot of parents are coming into therapy asking for help with the children, and it has escalated a lot this summer, said Caroline Hickman, a teaching fellow at Bath and a CPA executive. So essentially what they're getting into here is that young people are increasingly becoming a lot more afraid of the planet's impending doom. Hey there, how's it going there, Slappy? Thanks for joining us. The symptoms are the same as clinical anxiety. The feelings are the same, but the cause, it's different. The fear is of environmental doom, that we are all going to die. Swedish 16-year-old Greta Thunberg rose to global fame this year as she supported the protests by Extinction Rebellion, which brought parts of central London to a standstill. Thunberg argues that the EU must cut its carbon emissions by 80% by 2030 to avoid exponential crisis, double the target set by the Paris Accord, while Extinction Rebellion demands the UK achieve net zero emissions by 2025. Hey Kilgore, thanks for joining. So, pretty much what this article is getting into is just telling you what's going on about it, I guess. The G7 summit in Paris last month was also dominated by a row between France and Brazil over the Amazon fires after President Macron said the Earth's lungs were burning, right? So many things have been said recently in the media about things that are out of proportion, blowing things out of proportion. It's the only way that I can really say it. Parents need to find some words to talk about it in this age appropriate and not terrifying, she said. You need to separate what is fact from what is unknown. Tell them some species are going extinct, and some humans are going to be harmed, but don't say we are all going to die, because that isn't true. What you don't want is that child to collapse in a well of depression, saying, "What's the point in going to university?" or "What's the point in doing my exams?" which I have heard children say, which is obviously going to be a growing sentiment. What's the point in doing almost anything if the world's about to end? The CPA recommends a 4-stage approach to explaining responsible climate change to children without scaring them. Parents should first gradually introduce them to the known facts, then ask them how they feel before acknowledging the climate. The ultimate outcome is uncertain. Parents should agree practical steps to make a difference, such as cutting down on non-recycling waste and choosing food with a better climate footprint. Eco-anxiety is steadily gaining recognition in the academic community. In 2017, a report by the American Psychological Association produced a report recognizing its impact and calling for dedicated research into the mental health consequences of climate change. In one of her last acts as Prime Minister, Theresa May set a legally binding target to cut greenhouse gases to net zero by 2050 in June. But that's not good enough. We need it by 2025 or we're all going to die. Most mainstream media outlets, I feel as though, have gravitated towards this idea that inducing fear into the public allows more clicks, more revenue, more people are going to be attracted to that sort of headline, and therefore they're going to push that narrative a lot more than saying, hey, things aren't looking the best, but we're not too sure what the outcome's going to be, and let's look for a rational way to solve the problem. It's not really a good headline at all. So, what are we talking about? Have you seen people who are exhibiting these factors? Because every day that I go on to social media, I see people talking and going on about A, things they don't fully understand, and B, blowing things out of proportion to the point where they're saying this entire planet that we live on is going to be gone. The entire planet is going to be gone within the next 20 years. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and we're going to all be wiped out due to our own negligence. Does your child have eco-anxiety? Well, here's how you can tackle it if they do. And I'm sure that these steps don't just go for helping children. I'm sure that this is going to be fine for anybody of any age, because many individuals, as you can tell these days, act quite like children. So, 12 years left to save the planet, read one recent headline. 1 million species on the brink of extinction, read another. Little wonder that eco-anxiety, a chronic fear of environmental doom, is attracting growing attention, particularly as a problem among younger generations. Although not yet listed as a mental health manual DSM-5, a number of professional organizations such as the UK Council for Psychology and the American Psychology Association and the Wellcome Trust have written about it. In a 2017 report, the APA called for an increase to focus on mental health consequences of climate change. So they're going to reiterate a lot of these facts that we just went over. Symptoms of eco-anxiety include anxiety, depression, mood, insomnia, and feeling of loss and fear. Wow, I cannot talk, guys. And feeling of loss, fear, and helplessness. Symptoms in children may also include separation anxiety and somatization? Signs suggestive of physical illness, but without a physical explanation. For example, stomach aches, headaches, and extreme fatigue. The Swedish activist Greta Thunberg, once again, has told how learning about climate change contributed to the crippling depression she has suffered with. I overthink, said Thunberg. In our schools, our teachers showed us films of plastic in the oceans, starving polar bears, and so on. I cried throughout all the movies. My classmates were concerned when they watched the film, but when it stopped, they started thinking about other things. I couldn't do that. Those pictures were stuck in my head. That's not healthy. That's not right. With more articles and programs suggesting we are at the tipping point and that the situation is now out of control. Is now out of control. Concerns over the state of the planet is unavoidable, and bans on cotton buds, as announced last week, can seem like a drop in the ocean. But if your younger children are suffering with eco-anxiety, what can you do to alleviate the distress that's stopping you from carrying out your normal activities and making whatever positive difference you can? How can you help these individuals not just children, people who have eco-anxiety? Well, start by targeting symptoms. Limit caffeine and alcohol and stop smoking. Go to bed and get up at regular times whenever possible. Turn off all screens and avoid reading material about climate change during the last 2 hours before bed. Get outside in natural light for at least 20 minutes every day, preferably, and take a walk during which you invoke a mindful attitude. Appreciate the good things we have now. Spend time regularly with people who matter most to you. If symptoms continue to overwhelm you, see your GP and ask for some CBT, or better yet, mindful-based CBT. But don't stop there. As Elise Emile at the University of St. Thomas writes, acknowledging distress is important, but we must also change our behaviors and priorities to encourage others to do so, to reawaken a sense of control. This last step is also key to helping your children. If they see you taking actions personally, cycling or walking instead of driving, refusing to reusing and recycling, as well as calling for organizations to become more environmentally friendly, they'll become less helpless and pessimistic. And most important, take time to listen carefully to their environmental concerns. Help them refrain from their fears so they talk about what they can do rather than feel that they must now limit or avoid, or help them take action in ways they believe are important. After all, their concerns are paramount. The future is theirs, not ours. Which is true. The future is that of the children's. Though that doesn't mean that they always have the answers, and children are easily scared, easily frightened, and that seems to be a growing sentiment, especially with this Greta Thunberg young woman. She seems very afraid, very irrational, and emotionally based. And, she's not saying anything that doesn't need to be said, but actions need to be put in place, and she simply is pointing the finger at people for her fears, which makes sense. Adults are responsible for the way that they have raised the youth and the things that they have put into that atmosphere. Like Kilgore said, she's not an activist, she's a child. People say you shouldn't criticize her. It's the same situation. Nick Sandman, same situation. You saw the media go crazy over him. He was the exact same age. I don't think that it's right. I think that she's still forming her opinions. I think that it's awesome. She's out there doing what she's doing. But I think that it's up to the adults in the room to step up and say, hey, okay, let's formulate an actual plan. Let's work towards a goal here. Let's not just sit and berate people. But that's not what certain individuals in certain factions of political discourse are all about. But that's not what we're about here at the Open Debate. This is all about an open discussion and seeing what everybody has to say and feel. Nobody's being censored here, especially over on the Discord. So links will be in the description for that. But with everything that I have put out on the table, I'd like to know from you guys, does eco-anxiety exist? Have you ever seen it being exhibited in society by anybody that you know? Do you see it on social media? And have you ever experienced anything like this? That's the question that I have for the community today. So, passing that over to you guys. With that being said, my name's Elder. This has been the Open Debate. Be your own hero, kids.